Hey, thanks for coming to check out this episode of Defining Success with Marion. Please take a second and just hit subscribe. It will really help for the success of this podcast. And also, if you'd like to define success in your own life or have a conversation about how to achieve it, please reach out. I'd love to chat with you. Thanks and enjoy the episode. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for being here. And welcome to Defining Success. Everyone, this is Lisa Borden. I am so excited for Lisa to be here. Hi, Lisa.
Hi. I'm so excited to be here too. Our conversations are always fun.
The best. Yeah. I think I just want to share, I actually practice this and it doesn't seem to make a difference because now I'm like, I don't want to get emotional. But Lisa's just one of those people who I was recently introduced to who has made a tremendous impact on my life. So I was super excited when you said yes to doing this because I know that this conversation will make a tremendous impact on many other people's lives. So thanks again for being here.
Oh, thanks for starting conversations.
The best. And I'm just going to read a quick bio and then we will jump in and I'll hand the mic over to you so that everybody can just know a little bit about you. Lisa Borden is a strategic and esoteric mentor and advisor. Lisa founded Borden Communications in 1994 and opened the doors to the Wellness Intelligence Collective, TWIC, in 2021. Her mission has remained consistent: to help people sleep better at night and live better during the day in their bodies, their work, and their lives. So there's obviously a lot more to you, and we're going to get into all of that, but that's quite a hefty mission. And so I thought a really cool way to start this conversation off, Lisa, would be if you're cool with just sharing, what was your childhood like? Where was this mission born and conceived within you? Where can you start us on your journey?
I was like, we're going way back.
We're going back.
We're not going 1994. We're going back before that. I wear a sweatshirt. So I think first of all, everything's easier to define in hindsight. So just to flip it, I think my mission that I have written now was not the same that it was 5 years ago and probably won't be the same in 5 years. And it's because as I gather experience along the way, I look back and I'm like, thank you, life, for defining my mission. And so if you go back to childhood, I can clearly say now what I couldn't at 22 when I started my business, which is I question everything. Mm-hmm. I think I drove my parents crazy with the questions that I would ask. So I wear a sweatshirt that says question everything that I designed. It's a reminder to other people. I wear it like I mean it. And I think I was just always curious. I don't think I was particularly good at anything. I was just curious. Mm-hmm. And when you're curious, it leads you down rabbit holes. And so I've spent my life, I think, going down rabbit holes and knowing that I guess then I would probably have said, I don't fit in, I'm weird. I would say there was lots of charged negative connotation to it. Whereas now, you look back and advice to your younger self is be you, show up as you, don't shrink. We all know this. Anyone listening is nodding, yeah. And so just showing up as myself, I think that's a journey. And when I was, going from childhood on, I was never particularly good at anything. Mm-hmm. That's the sense I had of myself. I was other people know what questions to ask in math class. I'm not even smart enough to ask the questions. This isn't applicable. But I'd go into geography, and one of my high school geography teachers, I remember, he used to eat chalk to try and get us to pay attention. And I just thought he was the greatest teacher. I listened to him because he was weird. He was different. He broke all the rules. I don't even remember. I didn't do poorly in his class because of how he showed up. And so I think I've always been inspired by different. And now at 54, I can look back and be like, oh, I was always inspired by weird or different. I was maybe too shy or scared to be myself. I was raised kindly, like with love, but not understanding that I'm maybe different. Like how do you raise somebody who's not fitting into a box and who's not bringing home marks? And I always wanted to be friends with people who are older and did neat things. It wasn't even like rebellious. It was just, I wanted like substance or answers. I still haven't found answers. I just find more questions as I go down the rabbit holes. But that's really where I think it comes from. And also really seeing through bullshit. I never had tolerance. Can we say that on this show?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, great. So
please.
The no tolerance for bullshit has always been my thing, and it triggers me. Like I see when somebody is not telling the truth or taking advantage of somebody, and I can't stand it. And it's not like I'm perfect and I've never lied. I'm not saying it's like that way. I'm just saying it's like the health washing and the greenwashing. That was stuff that I was talking about before they were mainstream terms, not knowing that we were supposed to be talking about it. It was like, these brands are not telling the truth, or this front of label is like lying to us. Well, I was fascinated with advertising, the manipulation of it. I remember even in elementary school, having a project and selling toothpaste and learning how you have to cut. And this was, like, I'm a 1970 baby, 71. So this is not like advanced AI technology. And learning how ads were made to trick us that our teeth smiled or that certs were made with retin. And you learn, well, what is retin? Like, what even is retin? So that's where I was always interested, but I never pursued anything because we didn't have those options at that age. I sort of grew up where my friends were choosing to be like a doctor or a dentist, or they thought they were going to be a hairdresser, like whatever it was. And I was like, oh, I just have questions.
And thanks for all that. Cause it's like, so I love hearing that you were curious as a kid and that's something that's been with you essentially your whole life. Sounds like it's been a consistency for you and probably has played out in tons of different ways. And it is interesting too, to hear that you started calling out products at a young age as well. And we can get into this more because it's something that irks me, the word wellness. I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me for some reason. But using that in the way that we all are familiar with it, was wellness and a healthy lifestyle something that you grew up with? Were your parents into that?
I quickly shook my head like, no. But that's not the case because, my father is a physician, and my mother cared about like cooking, and we weren't allowed white bread. We had whole wheat bread. We weren't allowed pop. Like, we weren't allowed pop. We drank water, but we drank tap water. I loved Cheese Whiz and Kraft cheese, which you call American singles. Like that, those were food groups to me. So in how I live now and what I know, same as you, charged word wellness, to be no, I would say no, I didn't. But I do have to say that from my mother's perspective, 100%, she was showing up and making all the right choices based on what she knew. Like, it was like, you're not eating in front of the TV. Like, we had all the rules that felt would be better. And I really appreciate that. I guess it's also that lesson in, like, I ate Dempster's whole wheat bread. I don't know if that's an American thing or a Canadian thing, but think of that, what was added to make bread soft and last.
Right.
And I remember, like, I just want that white squishy loaf that all my friends got. And we were never allowed, like, luncheon meat and never allowed any of those things. But I look back now at what I did eat, which was, like, mustard and American singles, which was, and that softened bread. So
Yeah.
it just perspective, right? So yes,
Totally.
I grew up with awareness, and I think a very privileged family where they can make decisions to have family meals. My mother cooked, but I hear a lot of people say they grew up with crazy parents who knew about crystals and alternative medicine from day one. That was not me.
Right. But there were the fundamentals of cooking whole wheat versus white, and like you said, being present when you're eating and things like that, which are really more important, I think, actually, than crystals. But so I'm hearing a pretty solid foundation. And not to spend too much time on this, because I know I'm taking us way back, but what type of physician was your dad?
Family and emergency medicine.
Wow. Cool. Do you have siblings?
I have one sister, a younger sister. And we grew up but I grew up, I was on antibiotics all the time. I was having infections, always on antibiotics, just a different way of living, but 100% it was done from a place of care.
Totally. Yeah. Care and love and all of that. So, okay. So now let's think through, you went to university, right?
I did.
And where did you do that?
I went to University of Western Ontario.
By the way,
London.
Sorry,
Ontario.
I keep forgetting to tell you that, we're a hockey family.
So
Yeah. So every time I hear you say process, I get so excited because it's my husband and I always are we love it, love hockey. Okay, so back to you. So at university, what did you study?
Oh, well, the honest answer to that is nothing.
Nothing.
It was 100%. That's the answer. Is nothing. On my first day of classes, and it was before computers, right? So you had to wait in line to make changes. I went to whatever the main area was for course dropping and selection. First day, changed my degree from a 4-year degree to a 3-year degree. I was I don't, and I think I was raised at least in a place where you got your education. That was a privilege, and you're going to go and get it. And I don't know I learned a lot about myself. And I learned again that I was not cut out to be I wasn't a conventional learner. I ended up majoring in French, which is a fun fact that I always share with people. I'm you pay me for business development, and I have a degree in French, a 3-year degree in French. And they're why did you choose, why French? And I looked at the course calendar, and nothing seemed useful to me. I wasn't strong at math or sciences. Maybe if I went back now, I'd be I 100% would have done business. But I didn't even have a sense, I dropped calculus in high school as quickly as I could, because I was I am not smart enough to be here. And I studied languages thinking it's good for my brain to study a language. I wasn't good at music. I wasn't good at any of those things. And I was I can do this. I had grown up in French immersion early on as in Canada, right? We learned those 2 languages, but I was in one of the first French immersion classes. I was I'm going to go back. That's going to be easy, useful, good for my brain, and maybe I'm going to be able to use it for something. I don't, by the way. I don't.
Hey, you never know. Okay?
But I'm in Mexico right now, and I understand Spanish and read it because of my roots of French too. So maybe not for nothing. Everything for a reason.
Everything for a reason, that's for sure. So when you got out with a degree in French studies, what was your next move? I can't wait to hear how you got into business development. I've been so excited for this.
So it's a cool story. I owe a lot. I grew up with a very unique situation that so when I was born, my grandmother had a grandmother. Just insane to me. 5 generations. And I grew up until I was 15 years old with 2 great grandparents. My grandmother had both of her parents and 4 grandparents.
Wow.
And we all lived in the same city. We all lived close to each other. And I loved them. I still have a grandmother, by the way. She'll be 103 this spring. And they're the best people in the entire world. They were like, I just cherish, I cherish all my experiences with them to this day. Very, very special. My grandfather, one of my grandfathers, started an art supply and a paint store on Spadina in Toronto as a young kid with his brothers. And like, they had nothing. This is like the entrepreneurial, success story. Anyways, he built it into a larger paint company, and he manufactured all the paint for Canadian Tire, which is like, I don't know, Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever.
Yeah.
Canadian Tire had, at the time when I graduated, around 520 or 525 stores across Canada. Many corporate owned and some independently owned. And they needed somebody to cover the Quebec stores, and I had a degree in French. And so my grandfather was like, listen, you can come. I had worked for summers with him, and as a little kid, I would go through the factory and I would love it. And my grandfather, I was the oldest granddaughter on this side, and my grandfather loved that he could name paint codes to me, and I would like remember them, and I would love it. Like
I love that.
It was just the best. So he thought I was great, and I thought he was great, which was unique in my life, to be like seen and understood. And so he's like, I'm going to give you this job. I was paid $19,000 a year. I had to be
salaried.
I had to be there with the factory workers. I was not to call him Grandpa. I was to call him Lou. There was not only, it's like, some people are like, oh, she got her first job. Like, right? It's like family business. I was treated like I had to work 10 times harder.
Yeah.
There was that expectation. And he was like, I don't want anybody thinking that you got this just because, like, you're going to have to work and you have to earn everyone's respect. And I loved that responsibility. I really didn't know what I was doing, right? But my uncle, who was working there also at the time, and my and cousins, and I was like, I'm going to prove myself. And I was thrown into, I worked in the lab, I worked in I worked in that factory and learned so much about leadership from my grandfather. Him and his brother ran the business. My great uncle, not to say anything bad about anybody, but he was down the hall with his door shut, and he was the boss, and people had fear. My grandfather was in the first office. His door was open, and everyone called him Lou, not Mr. Goodman, but Lou. And there's just, I could tell you 1,000 special stories about him, but he was so cool. And he would teach me on a ledger about, receivables and payables and receivables. And we have to do these collections. And if you don't ask people, they don't pay. But he did everything with such kindness. He was firm, and he obviously ran a brilliant business, but he was so kind. People loved him. Everyone in the factory came to his funeral. Like, it was not he's just a really, really wonderful person, and he took an interest in, teaching me things. And when I worked with my uncle, he made me do some things that were, I would say, like, questionable. My grandmother was like, what do you... And he sent me to Quebec to go to like 50 Canadian Tire stores to help them relabel things, because at retail level, things can be, challenging. And so in March in Canada, I was 19 years old, 20 years old, and it's like I'm driving a rental car with a phone. The mobile phones were like, it was like a suitcase on my front seat in case of emergency only. And I had to map where I was going. And then I'd go into a store and I'd have to use my French, which, by the way, when you learn French and you're in Quebec, they're not necessarily like, who is this person trying to speak our language who's not doing a good job? It was the best experience of I just learned so much about myself and finding my way, and where I think of them as problems, but it's like, oh, there's an opportunity. Oh, there's an opportunity. And when I came back, I was put in charge of getting, I was in charge of all the stupid things like, Lisa, we need more business cards. And Lisa, we need sweatshirts for the trade show. And I would order, and I would be neurotic and not trust that anyone was going to get things done. And I'd be like, hi, you're going to have them on Wednesday. We need them on Friday. And I was like, I'm going to tell them that I need them Wednesday. And Wednesday morning, I would call and be like, you're going to deliver them today. And they'd be like, yep, wouldn't come. And I'd be like, I'm going to get in trouble for this. Like, I'm not going to be blamed for this. So I would find solutions on how to manage people and repair. And the sweatshirts that were $75, the guy didn't deliver them. And I was like, oh, when I would go shopping for summer camp, I would just go downtown and buy these sweatshirts, and they were $20. And then I'd use the yellow pages, and I found somebody who was, around the corner, at least 10 minutes away, who could do screen printing. And I took the design and I got it done, and I realized, oh, we just ordered 200 sweatshirts. I just saved the company $50 a sweatshirt and got them done faster than anybody could have got them done. I'm resourceful. Like, I'm creative and I'm resourceful. Oh, maybe I could do that. And so this woman, Jill Torrance, who is the marketing person, she was so patient with me. She taught me design. I learned Corel Draw, which was, for anybody who's in design knows that Photoshop and was the leader, but Corel Draw 3.0 was my best friend. And she taught me so much. And so I decided I was going to start my own business because I knew that I could deliver on promises, and that, like, delivering on promises, that's so unique. Who delivers on promises? That's what my business plan was. I'm just going to do what I say I'm going to do. And I know how to screen print and embroider because I can use yellow pages and I can be resourceful. And so if I can save someone $10 and make $10, everybody wins.
Wow. So you really discovered your path through through Lou giving you this opportunity to work for him, and then but you grabbed it. I mean, you clearly are somebody who learns in the field. Like, you appreciate actually being in it, right? You're one of those. I say that because I get it. Like, I don't mean one of those in a bad way. Clearly,
that too.
Yeah, much better learner in the field than like sitting and being told lessons. I have a hard time with that.
Me too.
But put me out there. Like, let's go. And so what's so cool to me is to think that you actually recognized, and again, this is why it's so interesting for me to think back to when you were younger. Your self-awareness seems very heightened. Like, you seem to have a good understanding of when things are right or wrong for you. Because the fact that you figured out, like, oh, this is what I like doing. I did something good here. This could become a business. I don't know that that's like, something that the average, I don't think that that's normal.
It's not, people say to me, people say all the time, you started a business yourself in 1994. 1994, you started a business. You're brilliant. You must, so much confidence. I was like, oh, no, don't give me credit for that. Like, I was scared.
Right.
I was scared. Like, there was so, thank you for your kind words. But I think sometimes I knew that I would get fired in 2 seconds as an employee because I had strong opinions and I like doing stuff, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm not, nope. And also, I don't want to do something that I don't believe in. And then I knew, so it's like, oh, I'm going to either quit or get fired. I'm only going to quit or get fired. What else is possibly going to come from this? What am I going to do?
Yeah, but I just want to I want to highlight what you just said. I can't do something I don't believe in. I just think that that's really important, because that's, to me, having known you now for a couple of months, I feel like that's a huge part of who you are as a person. And, I don't know. There's two things in that. One, that you, at a young age, 94, what were you, 22? How old? 22? Yeah. I mean, most people are still formulating what they believe in at that point. They don't really know. And they're just kind of like, okay, job, and so that you had a strong belief system that was still forming. I'm not saying,
but they can also do a job. Like I also couldn't. So sometimes that's what I call like a diffability, right? It's like, it's like just that at that time it was, oh fuck, like I how am I going to succeed? How am I going to do anything that's going to be meaningful? Like I don't fit in. I don't have a plan. Everyone else is like on these paths and I'm not on one. It wasn't a positive feeling, but when you're thrown in the deep end, there's two options, right? And I'm so grateful for all the people, do you know what I mean, on my path who helped me, tried to drown me and helped me swim. Because we don't do this alone.
No, that's for sure. So, okay, you start your business. Let's go. What was that like?
It was brutal and so much fun because, right down to the business card, you had the choice of going to the print man on the corner who charged $10 for a box of 500 cards. I'm dating myself for anybody's and that understands like the excitement of picking up a box of business cards.
The best.
And I knew that I had to stand out and be different. Like I started to really embrace that. And I had a creativity and I had the Corel training from working for my grandfather. And I knew I wanted to design something. So I knew I could do something. My grandfather was so creative and, he'd make art from discards like all the time. So I was like, I want to do something. So I couldn't afford to go to an agency, which was really the other option. You had like the $10 business card or an $800 business card. There was nothing in between. I was like, no, I want to design it myself. And I just want you to print it. And they were like, we don't do that. So I went to an invitation printer and I said, you do like table place cards. So can you do something in that size? So I chose an invitation paper and the business cards cost me so much money, but I think it was $200, which was, in 1994, it was a lot of money. And I knew I needed a business card. And so it was this, ironically, plastic. It was like a frosted, thin,
of course,
processed, I don't know, like bleached microplastic. But I was really proud of it then.
Lisa, so you've got your business cards, plastic, and how are you getting work at this point? I understand you were like putting yourself out there. It was word of mouth then. This is before social media, of course. But how were you getting clients, and what type of clients were you getting?
When you don't have a business plan and you're not doing sales, and you stand on your sort of reputation, you get all sorts of, I wouldn't recommend it as a business coach, by the way. And so the interesting thing is I would get, I heard you do custom stationery. I was like, well, I don't really, but I need to pay my rent this month, so I can figure it out. I had a good printer that I had invested in. My friend Kyle and I went to Future Shop, like our Best Buy version in Canada at the time. I think for 3 weeks, every day we would spend 3 hours there, and I spent $7,000 on my IBM Aptiva, and I had a SideQuest drive to the huge tape, and so I had invested in certain equipment that at the time, it wasn't easy to print, do you know what I mean, in blue on nice paper. And so I could sit and feed paper through my Brother printer and do custom stationery, which led me to do, you need a small amount of business cards. Instead of going to the invitation person, instead of going to the print shop, I'll just print them 10 up. Like I knew how to do it from setting up print on one 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock. And I had this printer that instead of, remember how printers used to feed this way and curl?
Yes.
I had a back door. So you could feed cardstock through and it would go through without jamming the printer. Remember printer jam?
Yes.
And so I could do things like nicer resumes and custom stationery. And then I would do invitations for people because I had the graphics program and I had the printer. So it was like $20 at a time. But that person came and was like, oh, my friend's opening a restaurant. Mm-hmm. Do you do menus? I guess I do menus. And I knew, I would always sit down at a restaurant and be like, oh, I could make this better. Like I loved the idea of like, oh, I wonder why they're not offering mushrooms. So I guess I was like a bossy, butt my nose in to people's business when I wasn't asked. And sometimes it was just well received. And it was like, oh, do you want to help me with that? And there's like certain notable people. Everyone's like, what was that turning point? Like, what was that big job? And it's not. Like I say we stand on shoulders of giants, right? To learn our expertise in what we can do to support people. Mm-hmm. My schooling comes from every single client I had. Every single client. I am beyond grateful. I could like sit and name a list of them. Mm-hmm. And some of them wouldn't even know the profound impact they had on my life by the way they treated me poorly, beautifully. Certain people were like, I trust you. To hear that from somebody, oh my God, you trust it.
Yeah.
And so it was word of mouth. It was the era of yellow pages and white pages. So you only had your name. You didn't have LinkedIn and you didn't have Google ads and Google reviews and things to tip your algorithm. And you didn't dance online drinking a smoothie to get attention. You had to do good work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's so interesting because you still do, right? Which I know you and I are both fully aware of that. Like now there's just more sort of like levels of stuff that can come in between people seeing that you do good work and real work. People could be more easily, I hate to sound crass, but fooled. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it still is the work that you do and how people are receiving it. It's so, I was listening to you just share now, like how you're so grateful, right, to the people who you learn from and the clients, and you still, it sounds like you really are remembering specific ones while you're saying that. And I'm wondering, like, while you were in it in those earlier years, what were you looking for, if anything? Like, was there a vision that you had for what you were building, or were you just so in it that you were just building it day by day and just being guided by wherever your next instinct took you?
Yeah, I mean, great question, and thank you for even asking that. I would say I don't know.
Yeah.
I would say that my husband or some of my friends might have a different answer looking, but for me, it was just about my word. Like, I now can say, oh, I have expensive tastes. Like, I realize that I am of value. For a long time, I was like, I just want to help you. Like, if you don't have the money, and I didn't value that cost, and, even learning what to charge. So I've always been developing myself and figuring out along the way. I tell clients today in 2026 that I think my most valuable trait or skill that I have to lend somebody are my greatest mistakes, are the times where I didn't value myself, are the times where I was how fortunate am I to be part of and witness what went wrong in so many companies scaling. Part and part, maybe my fault, like the stuff that I learned along the way. I just know that when I was 25, I was really proud of what I was offering people. Like, honest to goodness, I knew I was showing up as 100%.
Yeah.
But now I look back and I'm like, who the fuck was I to give anybody advice? And nothing against 25-year-old. My son, who's 25, helps me like learn so much. He's such a support. And we all have so much to learn from each other. And I think that's the thing is I'm just, right now, I am so full of so much experience that I hope in 20 years I'll laugh that I'm saying this now.
Yeah,
Right?
it's great. Yeah, it's so beautiful too to hear you reference your experience and with so much funny word to use around it, but like pride around it, and like that you feel so it's clear, it comes through when you're talking about it. You're proud of yourself. You're proud of your experiences, and you know that there's more to come. But I think that that's something really important to really just like highlight, because I think a lot of people tend to just do sort of like the quick, perspective of the past and lessons I've learned, and not really feeling the full sort of, what's the word I'm looking for, but like encompassing all of it, and I really sense that from you, and I appreciate that. And I think that's really important for people to hear, that all of the experiences, it's all of it.
All of them.
And, speaking of, you mentioned your son, and we haven't talked about that at all. I'm curious where you want to sort of bring that piece of this in, that you were also raising a family while building your business, and your experiences there as a mom and an entrepreneur. Yes, using that word.
It's like those words didn't used to be a problem. It's just when they get used and used and used, it's like we have to create new terms. And that's when people say to me, like, what is esogenic advisor and mentor? Like, what are you even talking? Like, all I want you to do is not judge me by a title and click through and explore more than what I'm saying I'm doing. See what I'm actually doing, right?
Well, yeah, if I may, just for me, the word entrepreneur was ruined when years ago I was watching some silly, like a Bachelor type show. Yeah. And one of the people on the show was labeled as, Joe Schmo entrepreneur. I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah. Well, you just said, so on that note, on that theme of that note, I'm not a mompreneur. I never.
Okay.
Triggers, and okay, maybe I have to do work around being upset by a term, but no, I'm not.
Well, it's better than a wantrepreneur.
Yeah, but you know what? At this point, I'm like, call me whatever you want, as long as you understand my essence, or you don't. But we're either going to be in relationship or not, and it's going to be on whatever the authenticity is today, right? Like, it has to be authentic, and it has to be that relationship. I never took maternity leave. I've had 3 kids. With my third, most of my clients didn't know that I was on bed rest for months with him.
Wow.
Part of it was I didn't believe that my personal life needed to become like, I don't like bringing my drama and my baggage when I'm trying to support others. Mm-hmm. Rightfully or wrongfully. And the people that knew me personally knew. It wasn't like I was hiding anything. I was just like, if there's no reason. And people knew that I was due in September. And I had my third in August. And I was like, hi, so my baby's in intensive care. I'm in the hospital. He's there. By the way, he's fine. And he's better than fine. But it was this whole, you can't prepare for anything in life. And so it's so easy in hindsight to have that lesson and use it now for so many things to support my clients or my friends or others going through it. It's so easy to have compassion and understanding. That was my third child that I started in the hospital in intensive care when I was like, oh, third child, I got this now. There's going to be no hospital. There's going to be no drugs. There's going to be no. And I was like, universe laughs, right? And I understand that I have a little bit in that I can offer support for somebody else going through that now. And to if you have been a parent and you haven't had a baby be born and put into intensive care, you don't know. You really don't know. It's a different experience entirely. And I can say that because I didn't even appreciate or understand how blessed I was with the first two. And that wasn't necessarily easy either. But yeah, so I didn't take maternity leave. I say, yeah, I'm a workaholic. I'm also a lifeaholic. So working from home was by design, not because I didn't want an office, not because some days it probably would have been much easier to actually have a commute and speak to a friend. Like I never had transition time. It also meant that I had huge productivity time. Yeah. And it also meant that I could, and my husband as well, uniquely working from home when he was traveling for maybe a week every month. But otherwise he was home and we had family dinner together every night.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
We put our kids together, or to bed together every night. Not every night. There's always exceptions. But that was our priority. But when I look back, I think like I also worked a lot. And, I had, the little things that you put on a doorknob, the child-proof things.
Yes.
Mine were only because when I shut the door to go into the basement, which was my office, I needed that, or the kids would like follow me downstairs. So we had, like maybe some people would be like, that's so mean. I was like, well, had to carve out my space, and my kids have a really great work ethic. And I would love to think that's because maybe you can do it all. Not in a grind kind of way, not in a like I have perfect balance. I don't believe in that, but that you can work and you can be a mom. And it took me a long time to believe that, oh my God, am I doing everything at 20%? Like, am I just fucking all of this up? Am I not being a good mom and I'm not being good at business? We'll never know, right? Like we can always think we could go back and we would do things differently. Yeah, because we have so much more experience now, and that's why we're supposed to share with others.
Right.
And that's why podcasts we can talk and have these conversations, and maybe our conversation can offer somebody permission to do things. It's like, oh, and we didn't have podcasts when we were starting what we were doing, right? So
no.
I just had my imagination, and nobody I knew even understood what the hell I was doing. I didn't even know how to find those people. Now I'd be like, go find others that you can talk with. Everybody was on a career path, my husband included. I was like, I'm just going to sit at my computer for another, hours and do it. But by the time to answer your original question, by the time I had my first child, I was actually doing well. Financially, I was working a lot. I loved my work. I can say now that I was 100% not valuing sleep or wellness, even though I thought I was. And I was making my own organic baby food for him because I was the mother of the century while feeding him formula from a can in a plastic bottle. Oh. Like very confusing. And that's what propelled me when my daughter was born in 2002, and she came with other lessons and allergies, and had a chest tube in as an infant, going to the hospital, and a nurse told me I had to stop breastfeeding right away or she was not going to make it. So I listened to the nurse and I trusted that. She has allergies, and I'm convinced, for anyone who hears this and is like, oh, I want to help her get over that regret and blame and trauma. No, I did what I knew was best in that moment, but
Absolutely.
I'm fully convinced she was the only one that I was so happy to have that permission from that nurse too. I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to save her life and I don't have to breastfeed. I'm in. And I'm sure she has allergies from what I know now because of that. My other
Right.
kids don't. They were breastfed. And I could apologize to her a million times, but I truly can say that my daughter Joey is our family's hero. Like, we all play a role.
Yeah.
But she caused so much stress, and her peanut allergy, the rabbit holes, and that was 2002. There was message boards, but there wasn't like Googling.
Right.
And going back, we spoke about my father being a physician in Canada. You know, I hate to say it, but it is a tiered system. Like, when you know somebody, you can get in. And I was beyond privileged to not wait 2 years to have certain tests and get into certain specialists. I got into the dermatologist, pediatric dermatologist in Toronto. And I walked in and you walk in and I don't know if you've been there. You're just like, you're so hopeful. Like, you're going to give me an answer. Like, you're smarter than me. You
Right.
hold magic and you're going to help me solve. My daughter's crying. She's covered in like eczema and psoriasis and she's crying. Never thought it was what I was eating when I was breastfeeding or the form, like, no clue, right?
Right.
Please help me, external system and human who somehow knows more than I could. And she said to me to put this cortisone cream on and to take Benadryl. And me too, I had to take something too to sleep because otherwise I was going to lose my business and lose my marriage. And I started to cry. And it wasn't because I was like, I knew, like, I started to cry out of like that overwhelm.
Yeah.
Which was, I put all my hope in this appointment solving issues. And you're telling me I'm going to lose my marriage and my business, which I know is insane. So why are you so important making all this money when I'm like, what's happening here? And I went home and I what was it called? Like, not Google, like looked on message boards, Simpatico, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I found this crazy group of moms, maybe 10 or 12 of them, talking about their kids' breathing being better without cleaning chemicals in the house. And I was like, oh, well, that's an easy, like, okay, I'm willing to try that. These were crazy moms, like what they were talking about. I was like judgy, like, well, I'm not like you, but I'm desperate. So I'm going to try this, even though I don't really believe it to be true.
Right.
And, you know, I have a beautiful home, grateful for my family home. And because I'm a project manager, right? Like, I'm a project manager by nature, and I run this business. I need to be time efficient. So I have cleaning chemicals below each sink to keep I don't have time to go from my laundry room in my basement to my upstairs bathroom. I'm so organized. And so I have like stations everywhere.
Yeah.
So I go through my house with a box and I put all the cleaning chemicals that I have vetted and chosen because, again, I'm so careful with this stuff. Put it all in the box, take it all to my laundry room. Not the garbage, because I still didn't believe these crazy, like, I've been trying to solve this issue with my daughter for a year and a half at this point. And within 2 weeks, everything that the doctors had told me, that she wasn't going to play nature, she was going to need a Ventolin tank, she was going to be this, that, and the other thing. 2 weeks, her skin cleared up 80%.
Stop it.
Her breathing. Yeah.
Wow.
And
wow.
that was the phase that we entered that my husband at the time called the slippery slope, which was...
Okay, but hold on. Pause in that moment for a second. Because that's super, I mean, you know, just to remind myself, this podcast around defining success, like, talk about a moment of feeling like I did the right thing. I can't imagine how that must have felt, that by just removing these products, your daughter felt relief almost instantly. I mean, what an incredible, and now I understand this whole sort of idea of your daughter being a hero. What an incredible moment as a parent to feel that,
Yes
you,
and no, though.
well, I mean, I'd like to lean on the side of yes, I hear you, but you figured it out, and it is really hard. I just want to take this for a second because I think it's really important. It's very difficult. I think this is a tale of time. I don't think this is just like something that, is changing or was different. I think this is a tale of time. We as people tend to want somebody to tell us, like, tell me, help me. You know more than me, right? Please tell me. And you have an expert tell you, take this pill, put on this cream, and it should pass over time. And you as a mother knew, like, this doesn't feel right. And you went looking for other answers, and wow,
But again, I had to be pushed. Again, yes, I'm not saying, and thank you for your generosity, of course.
No, I just think
But
it's,
it took me to be pushed so far for so long to that point where it's like, okay, I know, like, my husband and I are awesome together, and my business is something like, you don't even know me. How can you tell me that I'm going to lose everything because my daughter's screaming in the middle of the night, and the only thing that's going to resolve it are these drugs?
Right.
And look at a baby, like, anyone who's listening who's held a baby, your own or otherwise, there are these like perfect, beautiful, and the last thing you want to do is anything to fuck them up, right? Like, you're like, oh my God, I'm actually responsible for this. And so that's why it's like emotional, where somebody gives you bad news, right? Or it's like, oh, when they fall and scrape their knee, they're perfectly fine. Like, they're building resilience, and their skin is a miracle, and it's going to heal, and you're not going to be scarred, and you're going to be fine. But we're so like, oh my goodness, you scraped your knee. And so this was like serious. And I look back now and I think I was running a business. I had a 2-year-old, I had this infant, then I had a 3-year-old and this 1-year-old with these issues. And when I figured out that I was cleaning my bathtub and rinsing it so well, I knew, you better rinse that well, because if I don't rinse that well, my kid's going to sit in the residue.
Right.
Except for they sit in the residue, no matter how you rinse it. And also, where am I even rinsing it? I'm putting it into the water system that my kids, my grandkids, your kids have to drink.
Yeah.
It's, what goes down comes back up. So who was I to like... And so it all came to be where I was like, okay, I'm comfortable. My house is clean. My daughter's breathing better. We have a long... And as I said, my husband was like, this is every time we pull into the driveway, there'd be like, our whole kitchen would be like at the road. I was like, oh, we can't use, there's like nonstick. Do you know about 9-stick? And then it was like the shampoo. It has fragrance in it and this. And people are like, how do you enjoy anything if you live in fear? And I'm like, I don't. Because when I went to replace everything, I met the best people. I met people who cared and were conscious and were fighting to do something bigger and better. And this purpose-driven energy was gifted to me by my daughter.
Wow.
She threw me into this world of, you don't need Procter & Gamble, these huge corporate external systems. You can go, have you ever spoken to a homeopath instead of a doctor in Canada? They have time. They ask questions. They care. You're in a relationship. And so I had this, I was like, oh, there's a whole other world that I don't know about.
Yeah.
And I believe that's part of why I can help people with their journey now, is because I say, listen, my son who's 25, like, I cleaned his plastic high chair with Lysol wipes. You can do this if you want to. I didn't grow up living off-grid in a yurt trying to tell people how to live healthier. Like I just, you know what I mean? Like we're all humans and we're all on a journey, and I hold a story and some experience, and my business, how my daughter catalyzed my business is, and I really work to not should on others.
Yeah, that's an important piece.
Yeah. However, people who go to work and do one thing, but stand for something else, and they know information that they have to override to do their job, I just don't have respect for that. And again, I can be patient, I can be compassionate. We have to take care of our financial wellness is part of our wellness. And people say, wow, you really have ethics and morals. And I'm very fortunate. I had a supportive husband who was working. I had done very well in my business. And I was like, oh, I can do anything. I was still young. Hormonal, having 2 young kids probably wasn't making any sense at all. So I don't know that it was bravery and ethics. It just felt impossible to understand that I couldn't do cooler bags with a logo on it where the cooler bags had lead in it. Right. And I discovered this because I went into all consumer products. So then a brand would call me and be like, we want to reorder the cooler bags that we did. And I was like, great. I need that $10,000 right now, except for I'm now using a lead-free cooler bag. And they were like, we don't care. I was like, okay, well, $18 more per.
Now they care.
What? No. Same with pens. Started to investigate what's made in China. How is it made?
Yeah.
And understanding what's the human cost. And if a t-shirt is at a store for $1, who's paying for that? Because it's not the consumer.
Yeah, so I've been really curious about this, so I'm glad we're here, because I'm wondering how you handled this, because I don't see how it's possible to be supplying these types of products to your clients with the increase in price. It's just, I don't see how that's possible. So what did you do at this juncture?
I lost 90%.
Yeah.
Like 90%. I'm not good with numbers. So it actually could have been 78%. It also could have been 96%. I sort of make up numbers in that. But let's just say the overwhelming majority of what I had worked for, I gave up, but I was like excited. Delusion, like totally delusional, like was starting my business. Like it didn't seem like I had I was like, oh, I don't have an option. I've been gifted or given or forced or had shoved upon me this information, and now this is what I have to do.
Yeah.
So people say, you're so different than you used to. You know, you used to eat American slices and you used to do this. And I'm like, I know. And then, so the only thing that I believe we really do wrong as humans is we unknow. We can only know what we know. So I wrote an article about, being called crazy, and I started to write as a passive aggressive outlet. Like I couldn't say it to people, and I would write, and Huffington Post started to pick up my work and would share it. And I started connecting with really mean people who would say really mean things. And I would also connect with really amazing people. And I was like, oh, there's alignment available. And so I think that lifted me and carried me. And again, that's what I'm like, I can't stress enough that I am so grateful. Like there's this long list of people that I just want to thank all the time. And I never thought I would be able to thank the assholes, the people that I call the assholes in my life. But when you do your work, it turns out those people who told you, you're going to end up being able to thank those people too. And those lessons and the dark or evil corporations I only really can blame the people that show up to work every day and have to unknow what they know and hurt humans. And it makes me triple down, quadruple down, exponential with all I have to say, you're making a chocolate bar without sugar that honors the tribe, the cacao. Wow. I want to help you. And guess what? In a business development concept, really poor business plan. Because the one thing that every passion-based business has in common is zero budget.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's the journey I started on, which is how do you build a business with nothing? And guess what?
Yeah.
You can.
Yes.
Human power, creativity, showing up, and not to keep talking, but the journey went, which was that understanding that all my clients also who were in wellness were not well. And me seeing them across my desk and coaching and working with them before coaches were coaches and before everybody was in marketing. And I was like, wow, you guys are all so screwed up. Like, you're successful and you're doing all of this stuff. And you're like, you're actually disastrous. Like, what's wrong with you? And then I was like, oh, I'm actually the same. I'm dehydrated and I've been sitting at my desk for 9 hours. And we're the same. And so thank you to those clients who sat down and were trusting enough of me. You know, maybe I created the conditions and they would unburden themselves in my presence and feel comfortable. They're these successful people seen as successful on the outside. It was, you know, maybe as social media was starting, or they were speaking at huge conferences and they were influencers before we labeled them and you could decide to be one. And they would cry in my office. And I started to realize, like, we need to support ourselves better and we need better systems.
So again, here you are kind of like finding your path while you're on it, right? Yeah. And you know, it's, you know, you were open to not knowing where you were going. But it sounds like you really discovered quite a whole universe for yourself that, yeah, I mean, I give credit to your husband for recognizing the slippery slope that
he gets credit for so many things. You need to have him on an episode to explain. He's a gem of a human.
So while you're, there's a lot of time here that we've kind of like glossed over because you started TWIC in 2021. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. And
what got you to do that? And obviously we can tell what that is. And I am a very proud TWIC member, so I'm sorry for jumping ahead.
You are a very valued TWIC member.
Well, to be clear, everybody is, and that's what makes it so special. But I forgive me for jumping ahead, but I feel like it's a good spot because I really want to spend some time talking about TWIC and what you built here. So what got you to start it? How did you start it? And what is it?
Okay. Oh my God, is this the 4-hour part? Is this where I talk for 4 hours? I don't have a problem with that. That's one of my strengths and weaknesses. How do you tell a story? How do you tell a linear story in a multidimensional world and existence? And where am I jumping back and forth? So I had my first child in 2000. I had my second in 2002. They both offered me very different journeys of learning. I always joke that they are my reason for being. They are my inspiration. And when people say to me, you've raised these 3 great kids, I'm like, oh, they're raising me. And I apologize all the time. And also show up differently every day that I can. Like, I really want to do that. My third was born in 2007. And that's a whole story in itself. But through all of these happening, the slippery slope, the replacing the products, the business flipping over, my writing. I mean, I was told by my English teachers, like, actually don't write anything because it's like offensive, like your relationship with the English language, and nobody's going to understand or read anything. So I also thank my teachers now, but I didn't for a long time. I was like, and so I'm a project manager. So I wrote a kids book. Then I wrote another book. Then I created a grade 4 and 5 based curriculum program called the Alphabet of Avoidance,
Cool.
which was a really unique. I knew my content was going to change all the time, and I published it in a book. So I created, A was for whatever, and it was that whole alphabet, one thing to avoid through the whole alphabet, and it had a link that you had to type in. It was 2010. There was it wasn't like a QR code. And that way I could control online if I was going to find a new resource or they can go to business, because everything's so volatile in the purpose-driven world. And so I just kept finding ways around it. I couldn't find Shabbat candles that I wanted to burn. They were $6 or $4, or again, not great with numbers, for a box of a year of petroleum-based candles. So it's petroleum-based candles. The wick is made of, it gives off heavy metals. You're basically polluting our air, always being extra sensitive to my daughter's lungs, respiratory, skin. Everything I wanted to bring into the house had to be functionally healthy or part of wellness. So I was like, so I can order beautiful handmade Shabbat candles for $40 a pair, or I can buy for $4 72 candles. Well, like my business card story, where's the in between? I don't have $40. I want that, but who can afford that? What is that? That's a special occasion, maybe. So I spoke to local people who made candles, and I found out that even beeswax candles that say hand dipped in the US were made from honey in China with a shitty wick. They were brought over and then dipped here, which gives you the ability to say hand dipped beeswax candles. What?
Yeah.
When you look into honey. So the story of the candle inspired me. So I created a candle brand called Orb Candles. And they ended up because I could build a brand, I would do it in one day. I wouldn't outsource anything. I'd be like, okay, it's called Orb Candles, Orb, and it means this. And I always loved giving the why and the story. And I'd be like, there's negative ions, and the wicks are made from hemp and they burn clean, so there's no heavy metals, and it's this golden light, and you're actually healing your family. The opposite is you're poisoning your family, sitting around dinner with the best of intentions, and you don't know. So here's the knowledge why. Not selling fear and selling the solution. I didn't look to get rich off of these candles, but I was like, and then the Jewish Museum in New York City picked them up because there wasn't anything like it. I wasn't doing sales. Some woman from Ireland ordered a box of 200, and I was like, this is so cool. I worked with a company who got rid of fabric softener for dryer balls. And I'm getting to the answer, by the way. Worked with plastic nubby balls that you would put in your dryer to lessen drying time, lessen static, and eliminate the need for fabric softener, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
Then I learned, you're heating plastic. So you're bouncing microplastics around, and it's still plastic. We don't want to support the plastics industry. So I was like, I found on Etsy that people were making them out of wool. This was, again, 2010. Dryer balls now, people probably are like, yeah, I know what dryer balls are. Those didn't. So Etsy was new. there wasn't 10 million results. And so I started speaking to people on Etsy like, hey, can you make me wool dryer balls, but can you make them from, is there such thing as organic wool? And they're like, okay, crazy lady. I'm like, what's the dye you use? And I started to recognize the patterns of people ghosting me who were like, this person's insane, or I have something to hide, or I don't want to be questioned, whatever it happened to be. And still me asking questions, I would buy mistakes. So I found this woman who like sung to her sheep. It was like organic wool.
Yeah.
And she didn't hurt the animals because they were her animals, which also meant, guess what? Limited supply. So I can't scale that. So again, as I started to learn, I started to realize like, oh my God, I'm in marketing and business development, and every single thing that I want to follow and do is not actually, it's human, it's not scalable. So I started a company called Balls with 2 A's, Ba, right? You get it?
Love.
It was just fun. I got to have fun, like get yourself some balls. And then I created a fresh balls scent with essential oils that were actually essential oils. And because I, again, curious, learned about the essential oil industry. And wow, that is alarming. And so I was like, what am I going to do? So I would write about these things. I was writing for a couple print magazines and featuring my favorite things. And, you know, my existing friends and family, as a general rule, were not interested, did not like it. It was basically difficult for them. My oldest friend in the world, Julia, who's been my friend since kindergarten, the most supportive always, despite not understanding me. And I ended up with my Borden Communications business development website. I ended up with Orb Candles and Balls and The Tale of Kale, which was one of my kids' books. I had a growing amount of websites and domains. It was sort of out of control, and people were like, you do all of that from your basement? I was like, yeah, I do. Not a sweatshop, very happily.
Not a sweatshop.
Yeah, like, right? Like, and I was making those wool balls myself because I couldn't find anybody to do it. And then it was like, oh, you have to wash them in stockings. And then it's like, oh, I can't find stockings that aren't microplastic. Like, so you learn about supply chain and you think, oh my goodness, if that's, I would go and my son Ryan gave his bar mitzvah money to buy a honey extractor for, an apiary. And so we got to learn how honey comes to be in a jar. We spent 9 hours extracting honey and working with the bees and doing this thing, and you get 30 jars, and you think, how is that honey where every supermarket has 20 jars of honey on shelf? How's that being made? And so I look into it. Oh, it's not actually honey. It's maybe some honey cut with corn syrups, cut with sugars. And the outrage caused me to also create something called the Borden Big List, which was my solution. Because now my friends, family, and various clients who were my business clients were saying, Lisa, where do I get paint? I read what you said about paint. Where do I get paint without VOCs? Where do I get a birthday cake for my kid that doesn't have, red and purple sprinkles on it? Where do I get this? Or where do you get your organic butternut squash? And I'd be like, the farmer's market. Come with me to the farmer's market. And I found myself repeating the same thing over and over. Like, oh, not this toothpaste, this toothpaste. Oh, go to this dentist. Right. Oh, good. And so I was like a concierge. And I loved it, except for it wasn't part of my business plan. So it was sort of like a bonus. Do you know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, you're paying me for my time for consulting. But now the lawyer I'm helping build their firm is now calling me and wanting to talk about setting up their nursery.
Right.
And so I always did it personally, but I didn't feel, so I created this Borden Big List. I'm like, I'm sick and tired of spending 30 minutes writing an email back with all these resources. I'm going to put them in one spot. And then I can just, you're asking me about a nursery, here's the link. I've written about it. So I went on this mission to try and put my brain and resources onto a website. That doesn't work, by the way. So I had all these disjointed parts that I loved, each one of them, like so mission driven, so purpose driven, all solutions to problems. I'm a big believer in not getting caught up in where we fear and this fear mongering to sell something, but to make sure that there's a solution. If I'm going to bring up the issue, there better be a solution.
Right.
And then we went into lockdown. And then everyone was separated and the world was turned upside down. And I had been learning a lot about physical fitness and wellness, and really noticed that people were interested in being fit or burning calories. But what about the mindfulness of it?
Right.
Or doing the same yoga class, the same person every day on the same mat, facing the same direction. And how I felt going to 4 different people's classes was like, oh, my brain's on fire and this is so great. And it was around the time where I realized that my clients weren't well and that I wasn't well either. I was like, oh, I'm not leaving my house for days at a time because I have no commute. Mm-hmm. I'm totally not hydrating. I don't even know what hydration is.
Right.
Started seeing a naturopath who, one of them, when I walked into their office, were drinking, fast food coffee. And I was like, again, who am I outsourcing this to? And we went into lockdown and I was like, how am I going to spend my time? Like, I'm so happy. Everyone else was panicked. My husband and I were both set up, already working from home. We didn't have that learning curve. And I was like, oh, I don't need to get dressed up. I'm not being invited to any parties. This is really exciting. I have so much time. Like, how is anyone ever bored? And I decided, to answer your question 4 hours later, pulled all of these websites and all of these projects and decided to build a community, because it was when Slack was coming out. And you remember in COVID that we couldn't travel to conferences anymore. And so everyone so quickly got on Zoom. Yep. And I did this one course for entrepreneurs, creative entrepreneurs. And the fascinating thing was, say there was 200, again, I don't know, there could have been 120, but however many people showed up, these were people that I was really interested in connecting with globally. Mm-hmm. I'd been in business at this point for 20 years more. And I was like, I want to connect with these people. Like, they actually, again, that alignment, that excitement, but there was no place to connect. And this organization who was running it started a Slack channel. Well, Slack is not conversation, or wasn't even at the time. It was very hard. You had channels, but anyway, I learned about community online, and I was like, that's what I want. I want to dump all these people in there. And when my client, who's a chaga forager who has an amazing GPS system and wants to do things sustainable, and it's the best chaga, and I've learned why, because this is how it's harvested, this is how it's processed, it's like the best. He needs, say, $5 million. Well, I have a venture cap group that I also know that I've worked with from 10 years ago, and they want to meet each other. Instead of me spending half a day to connect 2 people, if I just have them come in and them come in, I can be like, John meets Susie. That's with one link, and not charge. I didn't charge for this community, which is called the Wellness Intelligence Collective. And it brought all the pieces and all of my experience together. So whereas people start communities and have to find their people, I already had so many people that I loved being in company with and supporting. I'm talking about organic farmers included,
Right.
not all business
Right.
people. And the notion of wellness intelligence is that there's all these dimensions of wellness, that the person teaching yoga might be physically and spiritually fit, but are they financially well?
Right.
Are they wearing perfume or shitty essential oils? There's so much we all have to learn from each other. Why do we have to pay for it? Why does everything in wellness have to be a program? Something that's $29.95 a month or $29,000? Why do we have to do diets in, like, if diets worked, there wouldn't be 900 of them that we cycled through all the time so it's like coming up with things like the kind food plate, which was mine. Just eat kind food. What does that mean to you, Marion, today? So
Right.
people would say to me, well, what do you eat? Oh, I've been vegan, I've been vegetarian, I've gone through phases of my life for everything, but I tell people, and I always have, I'm a Lisa-tarian. I do what I want when I want to based on what feels right. And you have that knowledge. I give myself that experience, and that's what I want other people to feel. The freedom. You want to eat meat every day? Fantastic. You don't eat meat? Fantastic. Whatever you're at, that's the starting point. And then I was like, oh, am I a wellness coach? No, I don't want to be labeled as a wellness coach. But to be well in any one dimension, we have to really pay attention to any of them. So if you want to be a great leader and run a great business, you got to be hydrated. And so that's sort of how it started, which was pulling all of my threads, my own experience, my own projects, but also everybody else that was looking for a home desperately at that time. And it's really just evolved since there. And it did hijack like my life in the best way, that I could not love the people that I get to spend every day with online more.
Yeah, well, and thank you for all that. I know you make a joke 4 hours later, but excuse me for continually clearing my throat. But it's great to hear
I'd love
because
to give you a sip of some propolis maybe. Yeah.
But you make a joke that it took 4 hours to get here or whatever. But the thing is, it's like really inspiring to hear that, again, it's you just sort of like one story, one relationship, one project at a time, getting to this point where it's like, wait, there's something here. There's a need here. And, I think that this is something when we talk about businesses and projects and a calling, this gets kind of overlooked sometimes, is this idea of like discovering the need can take years. Yeah. It can take years, and it can take so many different pivots in one's career or one's life to get to the place where they're ultimately meant to be. To hear you share how this really wasn't something, obviously it didn't come overnight, but it also wasn't clear that you were going to land here until your daughter dealt with her own issues, or I should say you dealt with your daughter's issues. And listening to you then talk about your son and his bar mitzvah money, and he buys, that gets you down into this rabbit hole of honey. And it was all these lived experiences, another kind of annoyingly overused phrase, but all these experiences that you lived that got you to this place. And so that people understand that TWIC, the Wellness Intelligence Collective, is something that you've been at now for 5 years, right?
5 years.
Wow. 5 years. And I need people to understand something that I was blown away by. So I come from a place of understanding what it takes to do what you've done with TWIC. I don't know that everybody does, so I think it's important to understand. You don't just go into TWIC and start meeting other people who are into wellness. That's one beautiful piece of it. But you go into TWIC and you get to have this like seemingly unlimited amount of resources that Lisa, that you have put together, that you have researched exhaustively. And like what's really unique about it and why I think it's so special is that, and why I was so looking forward to doing this podcast with you, is because you come at this with this experience that you referenced at the start of our conversation, or towards the start of it, middle. You were a mom, your third child, you had, I'm sure you had the bath full of water, you had the plan to do it all of that, I could only imagine. And yet there was a different trajectory. Like that's not what happened. And you come at wellness and the community that you have built, that your TWIC collective, I should say, with this understanding that like it takes all of it. You know, you're also a physician's daughter. Like it takes all of it. You need the doctors, you need the dentist, you need it. And then you also need the chaga expert. You need it all. And there's one too many, and I'll be done. I'll get off my soapbox in a second. You know,
I'm sure people are happy to listen to you for a bit.
No, but it's just so important why I really appreciate you, because it takes all of it. And there's so many wellness products and businesses and communities that try to pretend otherwise. And I don't think that's fair to people. I think it makes people feel like it's impossible to be healthy. Yeah. I think it makes people feel the opposite of what we should be doing within wellness communities and products and service offerings. Is it makes people feel like, oh, what's the point? You know, I can't ever do this. I can't live this way. It's too exhausting. Exactly. Everywhere you turn, there is something that could be done better. But that doesn't mean that every step you take has to be done that way.
Exactly. And as you know, because you've been on, you know, our weekly, like our live sessions, the Wellness Intelligence Breaks on Wednesday, the people that show up are not the same. Like we're not all the same, and we're all at different places of our journey, and we can laugh and make fun of it. And also people know that if I'm making 10% off of something, it's said, I'm making 10% and this is where it's going and this is why. But it is not sales based. And so you're not being sold anything, which I think is the best part, is that it's accessible to everybody because it's optional. I always say it's not free. I'm trying to really honor myself that this is my life's work. I'm making it accessible to everyone because I don't think wellness needs to cost $2,000. And I don't think that there's a magic bullet program or podcast, anything. We need dimension. We need like a wide lens, but we also need someone to help us guide and filter it. And that's what I take great pride in doing. And I hold that trust. And so thank you for seeing that. But it really does come that I'm not using AI. I'm self-deprecating in the same way. It's like, this is what I used to do, or that's news to me, right? Like I learn alongside you too, and then I curate and can put it all together. Yeah. I'm not a perfect interviewer. I always say I'm responsible for everything in that community. Every single tech glitch, every single spelling mistake, every single grammar, it's all me. And you know what? If I can show up perfectly imperfect, I hope anybody else feels that they can too. And give them a space to ask questions. Like when I was a little kid, I would have loved somebody who loves the question and wants to have dialogue. And when someone asks me a question and I don't know, guess what I say? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Like, that's a great question. Let's figure it out. And when I started, I was really hung up on this word co-opetition. this term. And like you said, there's not one spinning instructor. Like, if you like spinning, go to 5 different ones, because that's how you're going to learn. Like, oh, I cannot stand John, right? And that's why I would say to people, oh, try Qigong. I think that might be really good for you. I can't stand Qigong. I went. I'm like, no, one person doesn't represent the modality. There's so many different, people, and we can showcase that. So how did I bring that in? I wrapped it up in exercise snacks. So you've taught one, right? And it's, people can look. So when I'm like, oh, this woman, you have to either be on her podcast, or you have to hire her for corporate work, or to be your keynote speaker. I can share your exercise snack with someone, and they read my introduction. This is how I know her. This is what I think of her. And here's this 2-minute video of her energy in real time, real. Right? You didn't go into a studio to produce it. You showed up as you. And then the people who are just looking for great movement and a great coach get 2 minutes of movement with you, where they're going to be like, I'm curious about this woman. So everybody wins, right? Everybody wins, but you had to show up and give that to me with trust. I had to hold it with trust and produce it into something, and then other people need to consume it. And so the people that are showing up and looking for a one size fits all, like, no, take me every day through 21 days, and at the end I'm gonna be 10 pounds lighter or have a new eco-friendly wardrobe. No, you're going to have to show up for yourself, and then I'm all there, and so are other people.
So yeah, which going back now to a couple things. Knowing that you're not good at numbers, and also knowing that, you, like me, love the old business model of word of mouth and good business gets more good business. How is growth going for you with TWIC? Like, is it at a pace that you're comfortable with? Would you like it to be happening more quickly? I know this is like, there's an answer of it's happening as it should, and I get that,
right.
And I appreciate and respect that, but I also am curious, has it happened maybe more than you expected? Like, what are your thoughts there? So, because to be clear, so people understand, it's not like you're going to go on Instagram and go see ads for TWIC. Like, this is not that type of business.
You're not.
This is a real word of mouth, at least from my experience. It's a word of mouth, like, bring in your friends and family if you choose to type experience.
If you choose to join, right now there's only 2 ways to join, but you can either pay to be a key member, which essentially unlocks some of my best life's work, and at the same time it actually supports TWIC, which is the more important thing. But you don't have to pay. There's no financial requirement to pay, which you didn't go that route. Thank you for supporting. But if you join otherwise, it's called a PYOV member, which is pay your own value. Not pay what you want, not pay what you can, pay your own value. Do you have the money and the means to do it? Do you go to a therapist twice a week, that because you're now in TWIC, you're only going once a week, or you're not going at all because you've learned a different modality? So am I saving you $200 a week? Maybe you can put some of that in. So I have many members pay, but you actually have to write who referred you. And if somebody writes Google or Instagram, I'm going to send an email to your address to learn more about you, not because I restrict it, but because I protect every member that way. I have learned, again, statistically, that 90% of people who go to join TWIC do not become members, because they want to put their referral date and answer a question that says, do you want to be part of a community and be kind? Right? And so, we talk about keyboard warriors, we talk about extractors. There's so many people who want the information. The only thing that I expect is for you not to be an asshole and for you to be a real human. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to know anything. You can come in and ask 10,000 questions. You just have to do so not as an asshole.
I mean, the burning question, have you had to remove members before?
I have removed members.
Inquiring minds want to know.
I have removed members. I am actually, so that goes back to the growth question, which is I was very fortunate because there's a lot of hosts of communities who say to me, how did you get so many members? I've never been about numbers. I've always been about quality. But I worked really hard when I opened the doors to bring my friends and my family and my clients along. There's another story there that you really learn who your friends and family are when your friends and family aren't interested at all in what you are most proud of. So there's like healing around that. But my clients all came, and like you, thank you. It's real and it's valuable. And it's valuable because the people that show up are like you.
Yeah.
So when you create and foster a community of givers, you're not dealing with just people there to take. And so you realize that you can ask a question, you're going to meet people that you want to interview, and that will also be like, thank you, Marion, for interviewing me. Like everybody wins situations. So we have around 1,500 members right now. I've had, I think, 3,200 members join. I spend more time removing people than growing it. Why do I remove people? If they join and do not fill out their profile, I treat it like they're showing up to a conference. I let them go into the trade show floor or the conference. And if after sometimes 2 days, depends how organized I am, because it takes so much time to do this.
Yeah.
I will remove people who do not fill out their profiles, and I can see that they've logged in, 6 out of the last 8 days. So they must be consuming something. There's a reason they're coming back. The payment is to fill out your profile and be real.
Yeah.
And again, that's for all of us. That's my job, to create this culture. And the other option is that they signed in, they forgot, because how many things do we all sign up for all the time?
Right.
If they signed up in 2021 or 2022, the technology wasn't advanced. I wasn't as advanced. So the onboarding was maybe not good, and people landed there and were like, what the hell is this lady doing? I don't get it. And so, doing that, but everyone's welcome back. They're not like banned. They're just removed. And it's like, come in when you're ready to show up for yourself. All the magic comes from there. So we're at around 1,500 members, and I'd say there's around 200 that are active.
So for the listeners, how do people find TWIC? And then also, how do people work with you outside of TWIC?
So thank you for that question. People find me by A, word of mouth, and B, so as you know, but people listening might not, every single Monday I share something called the Lesson in Empathy Economics. It's my favorite thing to both write and share. I think of it, if I had to choose one piece of content, one series, that's like it. I love it. So it's not all honey is created equal. Not all socks are created equal. Not all chiropractors are created equal. Like I go on and on. And it's not long. Some of them are longer than some would want to read, but it's not like a white paper. There's sources, there's studies, and there's punchlines. So there's always the solution. And so sometimes I will tag a brand that I've said is the solution, and they're like, who are you? Because I'm not an influencer, so I haven't made that contact before and said, I'm going to write you, can you give me this? And so people are weirded out by that. So sometimes somebody will join, or someone like you are like, oh my God, I just read all about butter or eggs. You have to read this thing Lisa wrote. So you bring somebody in specifically for one topic. Every Tuesday, I share either an exercise snack or a self-care snack. Snacks meant for entrepreneurs, moms. I'm overwhelmed as crap, just like anyone else. I do not have balance for what even is that? We do our best. And sometimes I can't get to the gym or to a class, there's no excuse to not move. We need movement. It's essential, whether we are being creative, running a business, picking up a baby, walking a dog, whatever it happens to be. And we need multidimensional movement, and we need to be exposed to different kinds of movement because we get our routine. So as I said, an exercise snack, I get to introduce membership to a different kind of energy and a different kind of modality with different benefits every other week, and most of them take 2 minutes or under. No excuse. And the self snacks are basically nervous system based, and they're what has helped me survive. Like, it's so when people say, how do you do it? I'm like,
here you go.
Here are my tools. And so I introduce a new one of those. Every Wednesday I share a favorite thing, not as a product to buy, because sometimes it's a movie to watch. Sometimes it's a website that I go to that's free. Sometimes it's $1,000 product, but it always has substance to it. And so people come in when they're featured a lot because they're curious. And then every Thursday, I share a good old-fashioned interview with good human. And the reason why it's old-fashioned is because I started these well before everyone had a podcast and blogs. And the reason why I started interviewing people was because my clients all had one thing in common. When you're a purpose-driven entrepreneur and you're really grounded in what you're doing, you can't stand talking about yourself. You can talk, and myself included, again, like just the mirror, I know, but put me on a podcast and I will have no problem being here for 24 hours.
Right.
Apologies to everyone. Ask me to do a 3-minute presentation. Sweating, nervous, can't do it. I can't. So because of what I learned about myself, I would ask my clients questions. And what came back was amazing. It was like the best stuff for the About Me page that we were putting together on their website. And there was discards, but I was like, this is really good. Do you mind if I put it on my website?
Oh, that's great. That's cool.
So I called it an unblog because I didn't want people to think I was a blogger. And when I opened Twic, again, bringing all these pieces in, I committed. So it's been 5 years and I haven't missed a Thursday. And I've interviewed everyone from my grandmother and my 3 kids and my husband to my clients, people that I have a connection to all of them in one way or another. And it's like I think we all have a story to tell, and we don't all have time to listen to Lisa and Marion, mostly Lisa, yap on for 17 hours. So this gives an ability.
No, it's great. It's great.
So that really brings people in.
Yes. Yeah.
And people stay for all different reasons. And people have honeymoon periods where they're in for hours every day and come to exercise session, and then they get busy. And my biggest love and joy is when someone hasn't been in for a couple months and they come back and they're like, oh my goodness, I missed this energy online. I convinced myself I didn't need time. And that's what I love. That validation of holding this crazy virtual space as somewhere where scrolling's actually good for you, but not toxically positive, but actually good for you.
So the wellnessintelligencecollective.com.
Yeah.
Right? And then your website, what's your actual URL?
Bordencom.com, which is the first 3 letters of communications. It's because
go ahead.
I registered it in 1994, and Borden was taken by a law firm, and Borden Communications was too long to put on a business card.
Right.
And that's how we used to do it. It wasn't, and you had to type it. So people would complain about long names then. So I've just always kept it. So it's bordencom.com, which of course confuses everybody and shows that actually probably shouldn't be in communications.
Well, it works, but that also has a link to wellness, to Twic on it, I think, right? Absolutely. And so here we are. We have made it to this point where I get to ask you the burning question. Lisa, how do you define success?
Today, I'm going to answer it as today. And I'm going to say that I think in an hour or tomorrow it could be different. I think that's what I'm most success is about, staying curious and flexible, being present and aware today. Success is I made the most of what is happening right now. I'm having an amazing conversation with you. That's success, right? We showed up, we're making technology work against all odds. Like, I feel so successful with that. When I wake up in the morning and I'm not trying to be cliche, like, oh, like I'm breathing. I'm in Mexico right now. I get to go to the beach in the dark and watch the sunrise. That is 100% success, not lost on me. And when I go home to Toronto and I'm in my home and I get to hug my kids and make dinner for them, that's success. And when I get a new TWIC member who comes in and is like you, who adds so much to the culture and connection and changes the energy, that's success. So it's all, I think it's presence and awareness, and turning, like, not unknowing is success for me, because that's hard.
Boom. That's beautiful. And, it really just is interesting for me to hear you say that, because it's clear to me that you have had, since you were a little kid, lots of successes, because you clearly have been somebody who your whole life has lived in the moment, for the moment. And it's really beautiful. And
or actually, I haven't. And I learned about that way too. And just to say, like, I've had those successes, but I really have to make the point clear that I think I'm a product of not appreciating the moment, which makes me appreciate the moment even more.
Yeah.
Like that awareness. I was like, there was, like, as I said, I was a disaster. Now I look back and I'm like, I was a disaster, but in the moment I wouldn't have told you I was a disaster. So maybe that's success because I was present then, but I can say that I have not always been doing my best. And I hope in a year and in 5 years and 10 years, I have the privilege of looking back and saying, like, oh, I wasn't doing my best then either. Like, there's still more.
Yeah.
So
that's good stuff. Wow. Lisa, thank you. So good. Thank you for doing this. And for everybody who's listening, we did have a tech glitch, and Lisa was just awesome to be patient with it. And we made it. We did it. And I just love you. I adore you. I love TWIC. I love everything you're building. And I can't wait to share this with people and to inspire people to join us in this great collective that you've created. So thank you for all the work that you do for this world. And you're the best.
And you too. It takes that's the reciprocity capital. It takes all of us showing up. And when we do, magic.
Shout out to Johnny for introducing us.
Shout out to John. We love you, Johnny.
And shout out to my brother for introducing me to Johnny. It's just, this is how it happens.
That's how it happens. You stay curious and you make connections, and it's like alignment and learning and life.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Thanks,
Lisa. See you soon.